We will now call our May 28th Board of Trustees meeting to order. At this time now, I'll entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda and approval of the consent
Mr. Chair,
agenda
I've
items.
moved to adopt the agenda with two changes, moving 9A and 10A to the consent agenda item.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And Mr.
Right.
Chair, I will vote in favor of that, but on the list of mission-critical items, I want my vote to be recorded as a no,
Okay, all
for the
right,
same reasons it was in May.
so noted.
So I'm sorry, what are we moving?
So we're moving item 9A and 10A to consent. Cindy is in favor of, but would like for her motion for the directives to be noted as a no. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. And it's been seconded by Chris Frazier.
Okay, can I look at one real quick thing and ask you a question?
Sure.
And Todd, these are the,
Okay, so my only
You're over
question
your
would be that does Dr. Postaway, you are going to talk about some things in your superintendent's report, which we'll still do. So moving 9A to consent doesn't keep you from doing anything you wanted to do at this meeting?
It is not. Okay, perfect.
Okay, we ask that you please cast your vote.
I have no room for anything.
Everyone has voted? Okay, motion passes. Item C, approval of minutes.
move to approve.
Second.
Second. Any questions?
Probably around 10:30 or 11. I had to get up really early. It meant my son-in-law could drive me here.
Voted? Okay. All right, motion passes. At this time now, we'll have a public hearing on a 2019-2020 budget. Mr. Kennedy?
So good afternoon. This is the public hearing for the FY20 budget, as well as the second reading of the budget. The school board members should have a copy of the PowerPoint that I'm going to go through. If not, let me know. We'll get you a copy. The budget book was finalized for the second reading and distributed to board members last week, late last week, I think either Thursday afternoon or Friday. Board members received an update on the Q&A question and answer document, responded to board member questions, and there have been several questions asked today. I think we responded to those. The budget, what I'm going to present this afternoon is the fiscal year 20 budget as presented in the first reading. There's been some changes. Late Friday afternoon, we received from
Mr. Kennedy, 1 second. Just to me to make sure that every board member is paying attention. As important as this budget is, and what you're saying is very critical. So I just to make sure that everyone is focused as to what's being said.
Reverend Collins just texted and said he would like to call in. I think we can continue, and Dr. Postaway's going to get that.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kennedy.
Okay, so we'll email the PowerPoint to Reverend Collins? Oh.
I know, we will continue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and so late Friday afternoon, we received, as did all school districts in the state of South Carolina, received an update from the South Carolina Department of Education that slightly modified our numbers. I'll go through those and look at a couple of options that you guys can consider as a part of the change. In addition to the change from the South Carolina Department of Education, last Friday. Also, the 135th day numbers have been finalized by the state, which they had not been finalized under the the first reading of the budget. So the first slide here, the 20th budget accomplishes two strategic aims. One, as I think is very important, that we continue investments in the board and district priorities that were identified beginning in fiscal year 18. So we're continuing some of that work that started 2 years ago. And then the second aim here is to position the district to adopt a strategy of long-range financial planning, which will start this summer. For the first aim here, continuing investments in programs and initiatives that have been working. So in the budget for fiscal year 20 is the third year expansion for early college, high school. And so that's been funded through the fund balance. For next year, we have reserve funds for programs fourth year, which starts in August 2020. So if you recall from last year, we put in the fund balance, the amount that was needed for the third year expansion. In this budget for fiscal year 20 is $1.2 million for early college expansion for fiscal year 21, which starts in August of 20. So those funds have been set aside, at least have been proposed to be set aside. We're continuing investments in teachers and staff. This budget has an average of 5.9% pay increase for teachers. That's comprised of a 4% salary increase, as well as an average 1.9% step increase for those teachers that are eligible for such an adjustment. For non-teaching staff, the average increase is 3.8% for eligible employees. That's comprised of 1.9% cost of living and a 1.9% average step increase for those employees who are eligible for that. And then the reserves are also set aside for, in this budget, fiscal year 20, for the third year implementation to bring the minimum teacher salary increase up to $40,000. So that's set aside like we did last year. So one of the things that's new in the budget here is proposed is the $745,000 sustainability fund. These are for schools that were at one point underperforming, and because they were underperforming, they were receiving additional state dollars. And so once those schools have come off of the priority type list that have been identified by the state, those additional funds are lost. The concern is that some of the same challenges still exist, although the money has gone away and academic improvements have occurred. And so what we're proposing is that we set up this fund here so that we can support those schools who have made academic gains and make sure that they have the resources to continue those gains. Equity investments. So going still with staff, last year of this current fiscal year, we did the math supplement for teachers teaching in high poverty schools. This budget proposes to continue that. And in addition to that, we are proposing to do a pay supplement for teachers with 26 or more years of service that agree to teach in high poverty schools. And that is intended to address the high teacher turnover in some of our high poverty schools. So the budget does add a number of new FTE. I want to highlight what some of these are. And the total here is about 81, 82 FTE. Starting at the top here, you see 12.5. So this is for the early college expansion. So this upcoming school year will be the third year. So they'll have 3 cohorts there, roughly 300 students. So this is the increase for teaching staff and other staff to support those that growth. The second one here, the 29 FTE for exceptional children. And so we have additional identification of special needs children that we need to fund. At the same time, the federal IDEA grant for special needs children is not increasing. It's staying flat at roughly $9 million per year for the last 3 or 4 years or so. And the cost associated with salaries is increasing while the revenue is staying flat. Couple that with the fact that we have additional students that have been identified. And so that's what's driving the 29 FTE increase. The next one I will highlight is the coaching supports at high schools. And so last year we put coaches in a number of our schools. We're expanding that this year at the high school level to support the teaching efforts there. Likewise, for the additional literacy interventionists, and so in terms of trying to support the reading that's necessary for our students, additional 8 FTE. So those are the highlights for the learning services. Looking down at the operations, human resources and legal counsel, you can see what those look like there. The preventive maintenance program, adding 2 FTE there to make sure that we have the adequate resources to maintain our buildings. We're doing in-house routing of our transportation buses to have better efficiencies around that effort. Some changes in IT, a couple of changes in the HR arena as well as legal. So what the budget does is it begins to look at long-range financial planning. We start that by we have proposed a $5 million reserve. Reserve that would be set up in the budget. It is for use this summer to work on the mission critical actions, the advanced ed, the Clemson Equity and Inclusion Study, and the shared future work to make sure that we have funds set aside to begin that work that we've been contemplating for months now. In the way we're proposing to do so is to revise the fiscal year 20 budget in August of this year. So if the board adopts the budget this afternoon or this evening, we will come back, staff will come back to the board in August with a proposed budget amendment, revision rather, that incorporates the $5 million into the budget, ensuring specifically, explicitly what those dollars would be used in terms of supporting the mission critical actions and other activities. And so that then begins to set us up for what the general Government Finance Officers Association calls priority budgeting. So instead of just year after year doing incremental budgeting where we just add on top of existing expenditures, we actually look at the priorities that the districts and the board and the district staff believe are necessary for academic achievement. And once we do that, we determine the available resources and we define the results that we want and then select specific programs and fund those specific programs to support this. And this is being envisioned as a 2 to 5 year type of long-term financial planning. Now, the primary budget assumptions that are included in the fiscal year 20 budget are shown here. A 3% increase in assessed property values, though that 3% has been collaborated and corroborated with the county auditors. We've worked with them throughout this budgeting process. The current budget proposal has a 3.48 millage increase. The value of a mill is $2.5 million, so that's $8.7 million. The index of tax payability for Charleston has increased. That means then that we receive less money from the state. In this case, about $5 million less than last year on the EFA funding because of this change in the index of tax payability. It also includes, as I mentioned earlier, the 4% salary increase for teachers and the 1.9% step increase. The base student cost under the current state budget is $24.89. If you recall, under the first reading of the budget, that number was significantly, but it was lower. And then there was a decrease in the district's enrollment from the 45-day count to the 135-day count, which was just finalized around May 20th. And I'll have another slide to give a little bit more information on that. This slide shows the budget comparison between fiscal year 19, the current fiscal year, and next year's budget. It shows the budgeted revenues for the 2 fiscal years, as well as the variance, the change, and then same thing for expenditures. And it shows at the bottom right-hand corner the 3.48 mills that's proposed in the budget. Excuse me, 3.48 mil increase. So with the 3.48 mil increase, looking at impact on one category of taxpayer, in this case, vehicle owners. And so with a 3.48 mil increase, with a vehicle with assessed property value of $15,000, that's a 6% assessment rate. So with all the different types of properties in the county or in the state, there are different types of rates. And for vehicles, that rate is 6%. And so 6% times the $15,000 gives an assessed property value of $900 for this hypothetical vehicle. And so the increase of millage of 3.48 would result for this particular taxpayer in a property tax increase of $3.13. And you can see that at the bottom right-hand corner, the dollar amounts difference between the current tax year and next tax year if this budget is adopted at this 3.48 mil increase. So again, late Friday afternoon, the state sent out updated budget numbers. And so what this reflects here, the impact to Charleston on those numbers, the bottom right-hand corner shows $107,330. So that's additional revenue that was not captured in the fiscal year, in the first reading budget because we didn't have the information at that time. So what was presented in the first reading has been increased. The revenue that we will receive from the state is increased by this $107,000. That's being driven by the change in the base student cost, and it's also being driven by the reduction in Charleston student enrollment count from the 45th day to the 135th day. So $107,000 additional revenue that was not contemplated a month ago. So what's shown on this slide are two options for use of that $107,000. Option one is to increase the mission critical action reserves from $5 million to $5,107,000. So that would be an additional amount that would be used in the budget revision in August to support the mission critical actions. And it's my, I guess at this point, belief that implementation of the mission critical actions will probably exceed over time $5 million. So that's why this option is here. And the other option is to reduce the millage from the 3.48 by 0.04 mils, and that's what the $107,000 is worth. So that would take the millage increase from 3.48 to 3.44 mils. So that, that concludes the highlights of the general operating fund budget. We also have the debt service fund, and as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's no millage change. We increased millage on the debt service last fiscal year, and this fiscal year when we did the budget last year, went from 26 mils to 28. The projections right now is that the 28 mils will stay flat for the next several years. Then somewhere in mid to late 2020s, the millage then would begin to go down again for the debt service, assuming all things remain the same as they are now. And so that concludes the numbers. What this last slide shows is the engagements that the staff has had with the board throughout the budget process. And it also at the bottom shows the planned engagements later this summer, beginning with the end of July, where we propose to bring to the Audit and Finance Committee the proposed budget revision, and then in August to the Committee of the Whole, as well as the regular board meeting, the proposed revisions. So what questions do you have?
Okay, is there any questions for Mr. Kennedy? Ms. Darby?
So thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Thanks to all of your staff that's worked so hard on getting all this information to us. It's been super helpful. I don't think people sometimes realize how much detail we get, multiple times. Then your second to last slide about the budget planning, and since we have the EFA changes, that one. So what are you all recommending to us today? I mean, I remember our discussion about needing to maximize, I hate to say it this way, but the millage because of our Act 388 issues. So I just wondered what you or Mr. Garrett thought from an audit and finance standpoint between option 1 and option 2.
Yeah, my 2 cents is go with option 1. I mean, in the next 2 years, we're going, the pension and healthcare costs of employees are going to eat up more of our budget than we're able to keep up with tax-wise. So I feel like go ahead and do what we can to get.
Okay? And option.
And so
If it ends up just building reserves that much more.
Right.
I'm of the same opinion. We've done the financial projections for 2 years out, and if you recall, there's a big gap between the revenue and the expenditures driven by things that Mr. Garrett talked about. And then the other aspect here is that if we ever decide able to engage around modifications to Act 388, it's difficult to do so if we don't use the allowable millage. And I want to emphasize that the allowable millage is based on increases based on the cost of living increase and the population increase. So it's recognizing that cost increase because of those two factors.
Okay, so can I just ask a follow-up question? So for the budget that we have to approve second reading of on item 2B, do we need to make sure that we clarify which option we're recommending then for that?
We do.
Okay.
Okay, is that, Mrs. Jeffries?
Hi, you answered most of my questions already, but I forgot this one. I saw, and I may be incorrect, $1,384,000 on school board expenses. Can you help me with that? Is that a correct figure, and what is it for?
Let me, want to look that up and give you the details?
It's on the final page of this one.
Okay, if I can find it, then you don't need to answer.
Which one is that, College State?
It's on the back page of the Q&A document.
Got it, right there.
A significant portion of that cost is for legal, $820,000 for legal. External audit fees, so later this year, when we close the books this summer, Cliff and Larson Allen, the external auditors, will compile our financial statements. That's $105,000. There's constituent boards administrative support of $60,000 and another roughly $400,000 for office salaries and dues, travel, et cetera.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, Ms. Green?
Don, can you go to page 15 of the questions, the board questions? Which was a very helpful document, by the way.
Page 15.
Okay, I'm there.
I just want to make sure that the FTEs and the corresponding dollar figure is the figure that's associated with that or those FTEs? Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. So the FTEs are associated with the dollars.
Are these fully loaded?
Oh, I'm sorry. And so I'm sorry. It's not just the FTEs. If you go to look at the, hold on a second. I'm sorry. Okay, so I don't have neither in the Q&A document nor the PowerPoint here the actual dollars associated with the with these FTEs.
But they are on the,
But they are included in here. But we can get that information, just not in this document here.
I just wanted to make sure that I was looking at this either correctly or incorrectly when I was looking at this one, that page 15. And so that's the reason I'm asking that question. You know, you've got, for instance, on one, you've got 1.0 with the corresponding 118, 198. And I was just wondering if that was, and I would assume if that was the salary, it included all the fringes and et cetera, et cetera. I just wanted to make sure I was right.
It includes salary, includes all the fringe benefits, and then there could be non-salary information in these in some of these numbers, dollar numbers.
Okay,
But in terms of staffing costs, where we have staffing costs, it would include 100% of those costs, the salary and the benefits.
okay.
And if we need to break that out, we can do that.
Okay, is there any other questions?
So when you, on this slide here, when you're talking about the extra staff, in this document that you gave us, there's an IT coordinator and a network engineer, and then a VBrick network engineer. And I don't see but one new FTE and one reallocation on there. Did we eliminate one of those positions?
So are you saying the Q&A document, there are 3 FTE?
Right, the Q&A document has the IT coordinator and the network engineer at $197,700, and then another engineer for the VBrick at $100,000.
Yeah, so where there's an increase of FTE without any increase in cost, we did not include that. So
Right, these were the ones that were included on this list with the cost.
right. In which list you're talking about? So I'm assuming. Hold on a second. So Lisa, the Q&A document does not have the. So one of the positions was a reallocation,
Back into GOF.
yeah, from one department to another department. So in operations, as an example, for at least this year, fiscal year 19, may have been last year also, there was a position that was over in learning services that's being transferred back into operations. So there's no cost there associated with that in terms of the overall budget.
Okay. So last year, we added something called Early Learning Foundations.
Mm-hmm.
How does that tie into this year? What was that?
So,
Was it people? Is $547,000 of people?
the
And this has
547,
been last year, so I'm kind of looking at how the budgets are building on top of each other.
you're looking at the 547 is from last year's budget?
On the fifth, right.
Okay.
So I want to see how that goes into these 11 coaches and 8 interventionists on top of the interventionist added last year.
Correct. So we're looking that up.
Okay. And then the last thing on that is, in the questions that you provided us was a Teach Charleston recruitment specialist.
Mm-hmm.
That's not here. Has that been removed? In addition to the Call Me Mr. Career Recruitment Specialist, in this, there was the Teach Charleston. Is that still in the budget, or?
It's been removed, just the one, the Call Me Mr. position.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, I'm confused now. What's been removed? The teach. Something from last year. Oh, from last year. Yeah.
No. Teach Charleston is on page 19 of your questions for this year, right below the career specialist. And it's expanding the Teach Charleston program.
That's not a position.
That's not a person, that's,
It's just a fund to run the program.
thank you.
Does anybody, I'll go after anybody else. if
Okay,
anybody
is there any other questions? All right, Ms. Darby?
So this is kind of a question for the 10 of us up here and for Mr. Kennedy. I think I know the answer, but I think we've talked about doing a budget revision in August based on the recommendations that are coming to us in June, the critical mission items, the transformational kinds of things that we've talked about. And I assume that at that time, we will talk about what student outcomes 1 year from today or 1 year from then will change based on the budget we have. Because that, since we've been on the board, those of us elected in 2000, whenever we were 14, we've talked a lot about student outcomes and we're seeing progress, but I want to know, based on this budget here, how are we tracking those student outcomes are changing because of these things that we're doing. And I think we're going to do some more of that in August, but correct me if I'm wrong.
So you're correct. I think the superintendent wanted. So you're correct. So the recommendations that are adopted by the board on June 24th, whatever recommendations that are adopted by the board, then we would plan on then doing both the outcomes that we expect from any specific initiatives coming out of those adoptions, as well as aligning resources with those. So it'd be the resource alignment as well as a plan on what the outcomes would look like.
Okay, and I guess we as a board then need to have some kind of discussion on what do we do if those outcomes aren't achieved with the budget that we've approved. But that's our job to do. Thank you.
So I
Yes,
think
sir.
another question would be, is there a point where we'll talk about the income, the outcomes because of the additional support services in the 17-18 and 18-19 budget? When are we going to talk about the outcomes that have happened? Because we added about 60 people in those 2 years beyond the classroom teachers. So is there a point where that kind of information is going to be coming to us?
So some of it was reported to you at the committee of the whole meeting. There are general summary statements at the end of the question and answer document. And if you want more specific information, we can take a look at specific positions tracked to any outcomes.
I think what I may have asked it wrong. I want to look at the student achievement outcomes. I want to look at the MAP growth for the winter to spring and those kinds of things. Will we be talking about those this summer when you get them or preliminarily get them?
Yes, it was my understanding at the May committee of the whole meeting that the board asked us to bring school by school those growth reports just as soon as we have them ready.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further questions? Mr. Kennedy, thank you so much, and to you and your staff. I'm sorry, I did not hear you
Very,
or
very
see you.
good budget.
Just for the record, I know we had those questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Hollenshed has the floor right now. Reverend Collins, you're next.
On the Q&A from the board members, and I know you did give me the information, Mr. Kennedy. On the teacher allocation for a classroom, there's $275 broken down to $50 per student supply, $5 per media supply, $20 per student copies. Just to the board, I think that's an item that we need to take up and discuss increasing that to at least about $600 per teacher. The other counties are paying at least $500, and I've been hearing from teachers, and the last time we had that disruption, one teacher spoke from Memminger, and I've been hearing is that teachers have been spending $800 out of their pocket. We need to kind of address that situation, see if that can be revised.
Okay, Reverend Collins.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all. I want to ask a couple questions. Are we doing anything to increase security in this budget?
Reverend Collins, repeat your question again.
Doing anything to increase security?
Are we doing anything to increase security, increase spending on security?
Not of the general operating fund.
Not out of the GOF, Reverend Collins.
Are there increases over there on your side?
Hang on 1 second. Hang on.
Cost of ownership, we are doing projects within that budget, but not within the general operating fund.
Reverend Collins, did you hear that response?
No, I didn't hear it all.
So I'm at the mic, so I'll repeat what Jeff said. In the general operating fund budget, there's no increase for security. In the fixed cost of ownership, there are funds associated with for those types of increases.
Reverend Collins, you have another question?
Yeah, can you summarize what he said?
So very quickly, he said that there are no additional funds in the general operating funds for security. There are some fixed costs of ownership, FCO funds, that address security needs.
Does that allow us to hire personnel for security?
No, sir.
We've done that in years past.
All right.
1.5 million.
All right, so what about, I know you have your mission critical and some other items we're working on. Do we have set aside money to really impact our schools in North Charleston that are underperforming?
Yes, sir. There's $5 million set aside for perhaps a little over $5 million, depending on the board's decision on the budget tonight, set aside, earmarked to address the recommendations that are coming in from the community committees and the recommendations that the leadership will present on June 24th, which is an all-day work session.
Okay, and lastly, I think that the salary for assistant teachers, has that been addressed in this budget?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the
It
question.
says 5.9% increase in average teacher salaries and a 3.8% increase for non-teacher salaries on average.
3.8?
Right.
Right, and I'm hoping that we can get the assistant teachers up close to $15 an hour for the work they do in our schools.
Okay,
Chairman Mack, I have one more question.
all right.
Of the 29 positions, the 1.5 million for special needs, how many of those positions are teacher positions? 3 or not?
No, all the three.
Excellent.
Mr. Garrett?
I move to approve the second reading of the budget with the 3.48 mil increase.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Are there any further questions?
Mr. Chair,
What was the increase?
3.48 mils.
3 mils?
Yes.
3.48. Ms. Coates?
yeah, I just want to put it on the record that the reason that I'm voting against the budget is really the costs that have gone for the last 3 years outside of the schools. The year-over-year non-school-based staff, it seems like we need to, if we're constantly saying that we have to raise millage, which we've raised 17 mills in the last 4 years, we really need to take a look at why we're expanding those types of positions when the student population's not expanding.
Okay, all right. Ms. Erickson?
Yes.
And how would Reverend Collins like to vote?
Reverend Collins, how would you like to cast your vote for the budget?
Yes.
Okay, Reverend Collins, vote yes.
First time voting.
Okay, motion passed 8-1. Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
I move.
Okay,
Reverend McMahon, point of privilege.
sure.
I'd like Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy and the team members from finance who are with us today, if they would please stand and be recognized for all of the work that they have done.
And the key staff is out ill today, so there's a third. So, but there's a lot of work from the team. Thank you.
Thank you. And we asked all the principals to be here this evening for the discussion of the board directives, which were approved on consent agenda. So I'd like to thank the principals for coming, ask them to stand, and I know you have other things you need to be doing this time of the year, so thank you for being here. Thank you.
All right, we're going to an executive session. We will now reconvene to open session. Prior to beginning this meeting, we would like to acknowledge and remember two members of the CCSD family who have passed away since our last meeting. One being Logan Janae, which was a student at Wando High School, He passed away on May 7, 2019. His celebration of life service was held on Saturday, April 19, 2019. Danielle Altman was a data clerk at the School of the Arts. She passed away on May 12, 2019. Former North Charleston High School student Saquon Knight passed away on May 20th, 2019. His funeral services was held on Saturday, May 25th, 2019, at St. Matthew's Baptist Church in North Charleston. Let us just bow our heads for a moment. Father, we pray for Janae Altman and Knight families and all those who are grieving at this time. They're hurting for many reasons, and we ask you to help them through this season of loss. We reach out to you, who is the Father of compassion and the source of every comfort, asking you to touch them with your unfailing love and kindness. Father, we ask that you comfort them as they are going through their struggles and bring them through the tough times ahead. I ask, Father, that you would just come alongside them in their pain and strengthen them so that they are one day be able to help others who face the same struggles. We ask these blessings and these strength in your Son, Jesus Christ's name, for Christ's sake. Amen. Now we'll have a moment of silence. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we entertain a motion for item A.
My motion is that we approve to extend the facility use agreement with Acceleration Academy for FY20.
Second.
Properly moved in second. If there be no questions, we ask that you please cast your vote.
No.
No. I just let the record reflect that Reverend Collins is no longer in attendance by phone to vote.
I move to approve the D2
Yes.
sale and purchase.
Just 1 second.
Okay, sorry.
Just 1 second. Has everyone cast their vote, Julie?
Yes.
Okay.
I moved on.
You say you moved on?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was up there. It
All right,
passed.
motion passed. Okay. Item B, Todd?
I move to approve the sale and purchase of land in D2.
Second.
And can I add to that, just to approve that the proceeds be used for the sale and the former Lang Middle School to purchase some D2 property, some additional D2.
Okay.
Yep, so we
Yep.
have that in there. Got that, Julie? Thanks.
Okay, if there's no questions in addition, we ask that you please cast your vote.
There is.
Okay, motion passed. Item C?
I move that we approve staff to enter into an agreement for construction of a centralized bus lot at James Island Charter High School.
Second.
With an exclamation point.
All right, it's been properly moved in second. We ask that you please cast your vote if there's no questions.
This is petite food and I'm going in July, so can cast your orders.
Ms. Jeffries, can you cast your vote?
Oh, I thought I did. Sorry.
Okay, motion passes. Item D.
I move that we overturn the constituent board's recommendation and place students number 27 and 28. And I recommend that we overturn and allow students to remain for student number 30 and 31, and that we uphold the constituent board's decision for students number 29, 32, and 33.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Okay, motion passes. Item E.
On item E, we have 3 separate students, and I would recommend that we could do all of them at the same time, E1, E2, and E3. And I recommend that we approve to remain without paying tuition for the current school year only.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, ask that you please cast your vote. Motion passes. Item F.
Item F, I move that we refer the student to the school-based IEP team for consideration of an alternative placement.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, ask that you please cast your vote. Motion passes. Item G.
Item G, I recommend that we refer the student to Acceleration Academy in lieu of expulsion.
Second.
We're properly moving second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we ask that you please cast your vote. Ms. Green? Is it Ms. Green?
Yep, she got it.
Okay, motion passes. At this time now, we'll have special recognition. Ms. Taylor?
Good evening, Board Chair Mack, Vice Chair Darby, board members, Dr. Postlewaite. We have several special recognitions to present this evening, and I'm going to start with presenting the Ron McWhirter Scholarship recipients. On November 14, 2018, this school year, Charleston County School District Operations Division hosted the 17th Annual Golf Tournament to benefit the Mark Cobb Memorial Ron McWhirter Scholarship Fund. And they should be coming in the door any second.
They're not, I don't think they're here even. Come on.
Proceeds from the tournament are offered as scholarships to deserving children of CCSD employees. This year's tournament did very well, securing $12,676.52 for student scholarships. This brings the 17-year total earnings for scholarships to over $190,000. Please join us. This is Ms. Cobb. Scholarships are awarded to the children of full-time CCSD students, and the 2,500 scholarship winners are Emma Stevenson, Catherine Keisel, Jane Jacobs, and Emmeline Basco. Congratulations, ladies. McWhirter is in the audience. Please stand to be recognized, Dr. McWhirter. Thank you. Reverend Mack, Ms. Darby,
And Dr. McCourt.
and Dr. McWhorter, please come forward.
Everyone can look at the please. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next recognition, the hours of practice and the long trips to performances are over. The hard work for our local middle school bands has paid off. The South Carolina Band Directors Association has awarded Carrier Middle, Lang Middle, and Moultrie Middle School as the Outstanding Performance Award winners for the 2018-19 school year. Let's give them a round of applause. Joining us this evening are Mason Mumford, the Director of Bands for Moultrie Middle School, and he's joined by Carson Goolsby. We also have Principal Ryan Comeback. He was here. They're also joined by other Moultrie Middle School band students and parents who are in the audience. Also with us is Nicholas Naplee Otis and his students from Lang Middle School. Please wave your hand to be recognized. Thank you so much. And then in addition, and also with Carrier Middle School, we have band directors Jeff Scott and Samantha Mumford, along with students Brendan Breen, Bailey Samante, Brady Sester, and Kirsten Miller. Thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon. Let's give them another warm round of applause. Thank you. We'd like to welcome Principal Catherine Spencer of Academic Magnet High School. It's with great excitement that I announce, and we all already know this, but Academic Magnet High School has been named the best high school in the country by U.S. News and World Report. Let's give them a round of applause. The U.S. News Best High Schools rankings includes data on more than 17,000 schools that were ranked on 6 factors based on their performance on state assessments and how well they prepare students for college. This extraordinary honor of being named #1 in a national ranking is a credit and honor to the students, staff, and the Raptor community. The school's team of committed educators and students who are dedicated to learning are to be commended for their hard work. Congratulations. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you Jayante Williams, who was named the 2019 Charleston County School District Teacher of the Year. Jayante? Mr. Williams is a math teacher at West Ashley Middle, Advanced Studies magnet, and he lives his passion every day by teaching students the connection between hard work and achieving their goals. He is committed to working with leadership to serve as a positive voice and advocated for fellow educators and for the success of all CCSD students. Mr. Williams is an asset to the district. Congratulations. Thank you. And now I'd like to ask Ms. Nancy Platt to come forward. The Presidential Innovation Award for Environmental Educators recognizes outstanding kindergarten through grade 12 teachers who employ innovative approaches to environmental education and use the environment as a context for learning for their students. James B. Edwards Elementary School's very own Nancy Platt was recently awarded this honor and will be recognized in July. Ms. Platt will be awarded $2,500 as well as JBE to fund environmental educational activities and programs. Ms. Platt is the school's Green Team sponsor, and she oversees the school's Low Country Sustainability Program. This award honors Mrs. Platt's commitment to environmental studies and her commitment to teaching children to be champions of their environment. Congratulations, Ms. Platt. I would now like to ask Mr. Olson to please come forward and present our athletic awards.
Thank you. We had another banner year this year in CCSD. It's a busy time of the year, so all of our state champions are not able to make it this evening, but we do have some present, and I'd like to introduce them at this time. From Academic Magnet. Isabel Darcy in track was a AAA 400-meter run state champion with a winning time of 58.15 seconds. She's a sophomore at Academic Magnet High School. Colin Baker, a senior at Academic Magnet, has won the 3,200-meter state championship 3 years in a row. This year, he set the state record with a winning time of 9 minutes, 15 seconds, and 53 tenths. He was also state champion this year in the 1,600 meters with a winning time of 4 minutes, 21 seconds, and also for the second time was a AAA state champion in cross country with a winning time of 14 minutes, 48 seconds. Colin Baker. Thank you.
Wait.
Oh, got mom.
Yeah.
Go Raptors, go Colin. Isabella's so proud of you.
From Baptist Hill High School. From Baptist Hill High School, we have the single A women's 4x100 meter relay state champions. They won this year with a time of 50.23 seconds. Members of the team are Alana Foster, Tiana Murray, Takia Nordich, and Rosalie Bryant. Rosalind Bryant was also the single state champion in the high jump with a leap of 5 foot 2 inches.
Whoa.
Oh. From Garrett Academy. Garrett Academy had the state championship in the 4x100 meter relay, AA division, with a time of 42.13 seconds. Members of the team were Gabriel Jenkins, Raquan Floyd, Jordan McNeil, and Shakur Gadsden. Shakur was also the state champion in the 200 meter run with a winning time of 22.06 seconds. We did have a state champion from James Island this year, Dolan Owens, who could not be with us. He was the cross-country state champion with a winning time of 15 minutes, 40 seconds. From Military Magnet. It's a big year this year for Military Magnet. First of all, I'd like to recognize on the far right, raise your hand, Antoine Gant. Antoine was the state champion in the 182-pound division, single A division in wrestling. We also had a state championship team, and these are representatives from Garrett's state championship boys track team this year. Excuse me. Military Magnet, excuse me. Boys state championship track team. Also from Military Magnet, we had individual state champion Kevin Holman. Is Kevin here? Kevin won 4 state championships this year. That was in the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the 400 meter, and also on a relay team. Tariq Ulmer. Tariq was the state champion in the pole vault, 9 feet 6 inches.
Whoa.
We also had the 4x100 boys relay team with a winning time of 43.88 seconds. Kevin Hayward, Xavier White, Kevin Holman, Antonio Champagne. We had the 4x400 boys relay team winning the state championship with a time of 3 minutes, 35 seconds. Xavier White, Kevin Hayward, Garneris McCormick, and Dondre Waits. Great job, fellas. And we have our state champion from James Island Charter High School. Dolan Owens was the 5A boys cross country state champion with a winning time of 15 minutes, 40 seconds. A 2-time state champion from St. John's High School who's not with us this evening, Augustus Frazier. Augustus was the state champion in the 110 high hurdles and also the state champion in the 400 meter hurdles. Augustus Frazier, St. John's High School. And finally, from Wando High School, we have several state champions. The boys and girls swim team were not able to be here this evening, but both teams were the 5A state champions this year. In front of you now are representatives from the Wando Boys Soccer State Championship, 5A state champs. We also have Hannah Togami. Hannah? Hannah was the pole vault champion with 12 feet even. And David Kowalczyk. David was a two-time state champion, won the shot put with a throw of 59 feet 1 inch, and the discus with a throw of 181 feet 10 inches. Head coach is Kevin Shiver. Wando High School. There you go.
Good work.
Okay, just look this way and hold it for me. Yeah, thank you.
Great job.
We had one student who just arrived. His name is Shakur Gadsden. He's from Garrett Academy. He's the 2A state champion in the 200-meter. 200 meters. Give it up for Shakur.
Something I can't do.
They just say 200 meters. Okay, at this time now, we'll have public comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, public comments. Okay, it's now time for public comments, and when you come up, you just come up to the podium there, and we've got a timer, and you have 2 minutes. And first on our public comments is Zach the City. Thanks, Zach, for being here.
Thank you. So this is in response to the $400 a month expense account that you approved for yourselves. $30 to United Airlines to check my bag on a flight to a professional development in Houston. $28 for crickets to feed Shaka Zulu. $19.99 in tax for a read aloud that made some students smile. $44 quickly consumed by snacks for Writer's Workshop. $38 on pencils and $35 on colored printer paper. $75 for an air fryer, and $22 for the food my class has cooked with it. $8.99 for olive oil and butter from home that only cost my wife's anger. $15.48 for photos from CVS, and $9.80 for the book of stamps needed to mail said pictures along with letters handwritten by students home to their parents. The change from a $20 bill for a meal my per diem couldn't fully cover so that he could get chips and she could have the water she forgot to pack. $4 for linguine, not angel hair, for a lesson I didn't even teach. $10 for the sticker book that he works on during reflection, and $15 for the prompt book she writes in. Some for coffee and tea for my team, and even more for donuts. My treat, because I put on a smile every single day and support my community every way possible. And now I am forced to pay $30 to bring my bag home from a professional development that you sent me to in Houston. $400 a month. What will you 10 spend it on? I hope at least 1 month you go out and support a teacher and share that money with them. Because what do you need that oh so lavish expense account for? You are quite literally starving the people who feed our children and minds and their hearts and their stomachs. $12.24 today for strawberries for a field trip that my students could eat.
Thank you.
Next is Kim Gadsden-Polite.
Thank you. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
as part of Charleston Rise. This is on our critical mission. Our schools will only improve if we include the voices and concerns and thoughts of our parents, grandparents, and our caretakers. We are grateful to the superintendent of our school for her decision to create the Shares Future team, as well as her decision to create the Mission Critical Initiative. We thank her for including Charleston Rise as a part of this Shared Future team, and RISE will continue to work and take any steps necessary to ensure that the voices of our parents, our grandparents, our caretakers will be heard and considered. Her actions enforce that our schools require massive actions and improve all sectors in the community for all of our schools are to become excellent. Through the mission critical process, we hope that the superintendent and the school board will look at what is needed for bold, aggressive reform in our CCSD should do as well. One, identify and prioritize, I always mess up on that word, prioritize failing schools for action. They can no longer be last. They must be first. Second, look at our schools that have significant increases their performances within South Carolina and outside of South Carolina. If they use a school model and find success, replicate that model. And if they were operated by an extreme operator, determine if that operator could do the same thing for CCSD. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Elise Moore, and then following Elise is Macy Adams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Elise, as you said. I'm also an alumni with Charleston Rise. And for those who are not aware, RISE stands for Rising Up to Impact Student Excellence. Our mission is to build and empower a network of informed and inspired community advocates who themselves demand higher quality public schools and who inspire others to participate in the important process of ensuring that all students receive an excellent education that prepare them for their future. When RISE was created in 2017, it was to equip parents and community members with training, tools, and skills they need to take the lead in driving change in their community, first at the street level, then neighborhoods, and ultimately the district. We quickly learned that many parents, grandparents, and caretakers were not aware of the failing performances of many CCSD schools, including the schools that their children were attending. To better inform parents, we released a ranking of schools so that parents could see how our schools were performing. What we found was unacceptable. 2% of South Carolina's African-American high school juniors tested college-ready in 2016. 84% of Charleston's African-American third graders didn't pass the state reading test. 75% of third graders who are poor readers never even catch up. In fact, even non-magnet schools in North Charleston perform at or below South Carolina and CCSD's average. We have continued to study and share our students' performance. 3 years later, as we look at the results our CCSD schools have achieved in 2016, 17, and 18, we see more of the same. Too many schools are failing. Too many schools are too far behind. Our African-American students continue to attend the poorest performing schools and have a better chance of success in school anywhere in South Carolina. The district, despite numerous initiatives, has made no progress in over 60 years in improving our failing school systems by simply doing what has always been done, the same rules, policies, initiatives that have always been in place. So we ask that you make sure that you pay attention to those information that's given to you for Mission Critical, and we'll be sending our rankings to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Macy Adams, and then Carrie McCormick. Macy? Okay. Then Carrie McCormick, and Paul. All right, Paul, I'm going to not say this correctly. Denewell? You can tell me when you get up there. So, Carrie, go ahead.
Hi, how are y'all doing?
Great.
Good. We actually just came up to thank you. Last year we did advocating. I don't know if you remember our red shirts, but we talked a lot about dyslexia and how it affected our children, how it affects our community. There's legislation that came through the state that'll start affecting all of the districts across the state. Our district actually took the bull by the horn and decided to put forth a literacy program that y'all voted on last year. And it has been night and day for my child. And so I just felt like it's the end of the year. We've seen excellent progress. And we honestly just wanted to come and say thank you. It has impacted our life in such a positive way. A couple of days ago, Kennedy, she's here. I tried to get her to come talk, but she said that'd be too embarrassing with me. She never would just pick up a book and read the words. It was always a book with pictures or just skimming through. And the other day after school, I came home and I couldn't find her. I looked everywhere. And come to find out, she was on the living room couch with a chapter book, not too far below her level of grade level reading, and she was just enjoying the book. And for a parent who never thought that would be possible, that their child would be enjoying literature, it is just astounding. And I hope that this program can be continued, because I know just as these people are advocating for literacy, that if this can keep going and working, it'll affect so many children. And so we brought Mr. Dinuel to share his progress he's seen as well.
Thank you. And then after Paul is Courtney Sarr.
Good evening. My name is Paul Dinuel. I'm a resource teacher at Whiteside Elementary School. Almost 1 year ago today, I was one of 3 staff CCS employees that was Orton Gillingham trained. It has been nothing short of a game changer, not only for me, but for also my students. It is a systematic, logical, multi-sensored, one-on-one approach to learning literacy. My students' results over the previous school year have been nothing short of magnificent. Every kid that has been trained in OG for 1 year has gone up. Obviously, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the SC Ready reading results, and I hope this is just the beginning of CCSD implementing OG Orton Gillingham as a literacy tool in our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Courtney, and then Vadon Colson, and then following Vadon is Eric Jackson.
Hi, Courtney Sarr. I'm back again as well with the red shirts supporting dyslexia. My child was one of the children to receive Orton Gillingham this year, and it has been amazing. I mean, absolutely the changes in my child's self-esteem, just like Carrie's child. My son used to run from books, literally cry and have temper tantrums at night reading. He's in 3rd grade because it's so embarrassing for him. And now he's actually picking up books. We just started reading Harry Potter together. We're alternating pages. He's in 3rd grade. We're not at that level yet, but we're getting there. And so again, thank you so much for putting this program in place. I really hope it rolls out to the rest of the district at some point soon, because our reading levels this will help every child. Orton Gillingham will help every child that is struggling with reading. So if we can continue the program and support it again next year, you're helping a great deal. Because remember, dyslexia is in 20% of our children. So 20% of our students will have dyslexia. So this will help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Vadon Colson, and then Eric Jackson.
Good evening, I'm Vadon Colston with Prestige Preparatory Academy. Recently received notice of the district's intent to revoke the charter for our school on June 30th of this year. In response, a petition was put together, which now has over 1,300 signatures, and I wanted to read the petition to you as well as provide it for the board's consideration. Recently, the Charleston County School District sent notice of their intent to close Prestige Preparatory Academy at the conclusion of the 2018-2019 academic year, citing concerns about finances and academic achievement. This is unfair because the Charleston County School Board has forgiven debts and made additional money available for other charter schools in the area, and Prestige has outperformed many elementary schools in the vicinity in both student growth and school effectiveness. Closing PPA after only 3 years of operation would be a grave injustice to the boys they serve. It places these students back in the same environments that do not provide the educational opportunities available at PPA and negates their parents' rights to choose the school they feel is most beneficial to their sons. Statistics have proved that minority and male students from low-income families have not enjoyed the same academic outcomes as other students in the Charleston County School District. These scholars and their families should have the right to pursue alternative opportunities for teaching, learning, and eliminating the achievement gap. Prestige Preparatory Academy is a viable and much-needed educational option for the boys of Charleston County. As a result of the foregoing, we request that the Charleston County School District Board of Trustees and the Office of the Superintendent work with PPA to ensure that it will stay open and that the district provides at least the same amount of financial support that other similarly situated schools have received. And I'm not sure who I can give this to.
You can hand it to Michael right there, and he'll make sure it gets done.
Reverend Mack.
Yeah.
Thank
you very much. And next is Eric Jackson.
I have a non-agenda item I'm going to talk about, so do I wait till after the superintendent give her report?
The non-agenda item.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson, I missed your question.
I have a non-agenda item that I want to speak about, and it comes after the superintendent report. So
Yeah,
do
you
I
know
come-
what?
We already did it. We already did it now. We have
Yeah,
to
let's
move
go ahead and
forward.
do it now, because that's the list I had, and I called on you, so let's go with that, if that's
All
okay
right,
with you.
Not a problem.
Better job next time.
Not a problem. My name is Eric Jackson. I'm the SIC chairman for Burke High School, and that's who I'm representing with my comment. I had an opportunity to attend the West Ashley Mission Critical, the North Charleston Mission Critical, and the Downtown Mission Critical events, and each area have their own issues. My concern is when we were in the North Charleston area, right in the middle of the Mission Critical, was an announcement that they were going to close Garrett Academy. And my concern is, first, I have questions to how are you going to close a school that's not failing? And second, the school has a SIC, which means they have a SIC plan. And I'm pretty sure that the SIC plan didn't represent closing the school. My concern is being the SIC chairman, we work diligently on ways to improve our school. And no way in the mission critical platform were the SICs a part of the planning. We've been doing this for the past 5 years. We include community members, we can include staff from the schools, we include students. So I think our voice in planning what's going to happen for the school future would have been vital. I think that was a missed opportunity. I go to the meetings anyway, so you're going to hear what I'm going to say. But I'm just thinking that we have to do better planning, better communication. We need to send out, what's the policy for emails? I sent everybody on the board an email. I didn't get a return on any emails. It's just, and the fact that you have people working in this community that doesn't work for the school district. I want y'all to understand that we have a vested interest in the students, just like you. We just don't wear the same badge as you. So please take that in consideration when moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. If I know we have a number of students that are here today, and I know if you didn't want to, if any students or children are here today, just stand up so we can recognize you. Anybody want to back there? All right, well, thanks y'all for any children that are here today or students that are here today. I appreciate that. And thanks to your parents who got them here. All right, that's the end of public comment.
Okay, at this time now, we have the superintendent's report.
Thank you. The only thing I want to talk about tonight are the board directives and how they're related to the mission critical work and how that work relates to every other report and recommendation that has come before this board. committees have been working in North Charleston, downtown Charleston, West Ashley, and on Johns and Guatemala Islands to bring some recommendations to the board. In addition, we have heard recommendations from educators, parents, students, and community members in the other areas of the district that don't have an official mission-critical initiative in place right now. We simply did not have the capacity to support a mission-critical group in every single constituent area. So we started with those 4. Their meetings have been both private committee meetings and public. So their recommendations are due to us within the next week or 10 days. I have not seen any of the recommendations officially. Today I got to peek at some recommendations that are ready to come in and were shared with one of our staff members. To my knowledge, none of our staff has participated in the community meetings. Some educators may have, but our staff is working on these directives. So on June 24th, we will need to start about 9 o'clock in the morning in order to hear in 15-minute segments the recommendations that are coming from the communities as well as the ideas that are coming from the staff. At the end of that day, we are ready for the board to take some action. So we'll do our best to get those the community mission-critical recommendations and the staff thoughts and reflection suggestions to you at least a week ahead of that date so that you will have ample time to review them. I don't want anyone to be surprised about the magnitude of change that ought to be recommended from some of these communities and from the leadership work. We'll put this information out there. I think most of the changes would occur for the fall, for the 2020-2021 school year. So there will be lots of time for the community to help decide how to make something happen. But on June 24th, we're counting on this board to make something happen, to decide that something is going to change when and where it needs to change. So the wording on the first mission critical action has been changed. I'm sure you saw that before you approved it on consent agenda. So how does a school team know they are meeting expectations? You asked us to reduce to the size of 1 index card. So we have done that. We'll have that ready for you to look at soon. The front and the back of 1 index card will tell every employee, every parent, every student, every community member the exact kind of metrics we're looking for. And then to accompany that, there will be a separate table that will list every school, because the amount of growth that can occur in a school that's already at the 98th percentile will be very different than the amount of growth that can occur in a school sitting at the 10th percentile. So it wouldn't be fair to say that everyone needs to grow 5%. So those growth targets and achievement scores will be prorated for each of our schools. We're also recommending that in our regional accountability report that we look at the Lexile ranges for a grade level. And if a student shows that he or she has made the Lexile range on SC Ready or on a MAP test, a nationally normed, fairly administered test, that we give the school a check mark for that, so that we're not reducing teachers and children to this pressure cauldron that is occurring in 1 week in May. But if your child exhibits on any one of the approved assessments that they are scoring in the reading range for that grade level, the school gets a check for that. The same thing on the mathematics level, the same thing with a career or college readiness assessment. So we'll share all of that with you, and that addresses mission critical item number 1. Mission critical item number 2, you're asking us to make some bold recommendations for changes in our schools that are languishing and have been languishing for years and years, despite the best efforts and pretty ambitious initiatives that have been tested in some of them. It's a situation that we cannot allow to continue, and so these recommendations will be very different from anything you've seen in the past. We just want you to be ready for that. We think there are some coming in from the community committees, and we know our leadership team will bring some to you. The third item has to do with making sure that if we invest in preschool programs, that more children are entering kindergarten ready to read as a result of those investments. So we are looking at that total program redesign. Number 4 asks us to address the unintended consequences of some of our choice and magnet programs, things that the board who put those programs in place for good reasons at the time could not have imagined would happen at this point in time. So there is inequity, and there is not enough representation of all of the people of Charleston County in those schools. So we're not destroying the good programs that we have, but we are going to recommend some changes that will ensure quality while opening up access. Number 5, we're looking again to see if there are any advanced ed accreditation issues, any Clemson report issues, or any shared future recommendations that are not covered in the rest of these directives. Number 6 talks about making sure that all of our personnel understand the expectations before day 1 or by day 1, and that to the extent possible, if we're implementing a new program, teachers have the opportunity to get trained in that program on days where they are paid their salary or a stipend. 7 asks us to take a look at creating a stronger leadership pipeline and to make sure that we don't start any school that doesn't have a leader who is extremely capable and accomplished. 8, you ask us to do a program effectiveness audit and to very clearly cut those programs that aren't yielding return on investment. And to do that, we have to be very forthright. It may hurt some people's feelings, but we simply have to be about truth-telling. If we've invested in a program, we have to be clear about what the return on that investment was in terms of student achievement. 9, if this board chooses to run a referendum again in 2020, we need to tie those referendum recommendations to these other mission-critical actions. We have too many schools that are too small, and we cannot get the same number of services and supports to children in a school of fewer than 400 students as we can in schools with 800 or more students. So we have to address those problems, and we have to be really forthright about addressing them. In areas of the district where we have rural populations and it's not possible to get children in larger groups without busing very young children a long distance, we need to think about the exceptions that might need to be made. But in our more urban areas, we simply cannot justify the numbers of schools that we're running with the numbers of children in them and the cost per pupil that requires. And then number 10 is to propose a process. One board member refers to the process as a Shark Tank process, where really creative educators and others who have ideas that would work if we were able to implement those ideas in a whole school and protect that school, give it the autonomy to operate, would likely result in much better outcomes for children. Meg Orchard, one of our Teacher of the Year finalists from a couple of years ago, talks about her summer residency experience and how that's one of the most incredible professional experiences of her entire career. And she has mentioned wanting to do that work with teachers who are like-minded inside a school so that we have a place where young teachers can be mentored and taught in high-poverty environments. Clemson University, as you know, is working with us to ensure that after a couple of years, those young teachers emerge with a master's in teaching as a result of our partnership in a school such as that. So I don't want there to be any surprises from any quarter about the kinds of recommendations that the community committees are likely to make and that our leadership team will make on June 24th. We plan for that meeting to be in this room unless we have reason to believe it will not hold everyone. We've asked all of our principals to attend that day, and we invite parents, students, and members of the public to be here as well. Again, the meeting will have to start around 9 a.m. and it's going to have to run all day. And we're going to have those recommendations to the board ahead of time so that you will have had time to read all of them to digest them a bit. So finally, I think there may be some principals who came in after the other principals, so I want to thank the principals for having been here this evening. I want to thank those teachers who came and spoke to the board, and to those parents, constituent board members, and other community members are here. And again, to our cabinet and district leaders who put together this massive budget, our deepest appreciation, and to the board, I want to reiterate that we understand that you've passed a budget, but we've not yet targeted it sharply enough around those things that we are predicting will make a difference. And before you approve that budget in August, we need to get very targeted about the specific investments we ask you to make and the outcomes that you should expect to see as a result of those investments. It has taken us a while to get to this point, but we are ready. We all understand we're answerable, and we are looking forward to the conversation on June 24th and to implementing on June 25th those ideas that you have said to move forward on. Do you have any questions about that?
Are there any questions for the superintendent?
Can I just ask a calendar question? So, I'll go back. So June 10th is committee of the whole, but we're doing board training that whole day. So we should have June 10th marked off for the whole day. And then June 24th, we'll receive the information you just discussed the week before, but we can be here starting at 9 to hear the recommendations. And then is the plan that we will take action on those recommendations at the June 24th board meeting?
Yes, ma'am. We will ask the board to take action on those recommendations that you're comfortable moving forward with. You may want to defer some for further consideration. I would expect that would be the case. But in June, other than the bare essentials of the business that this board has to conduct, the entire focus will be on these board deliverables, the mission-critical actions that lead toward implementing the recommendations the board has received over the past 24 months.
Okay, Ms. Green?
In terms of format for the presentations for the 24th, is it going to be a consolidated list of recommendations that include what you've received from the community as well as the administration's recommendations, or are we going to get two isolated groups of recommendations that we will have to decide between or decipher? You understand what I'm asking?
I do understand, and that decision isn't made, but I can tell you the mental model that we have in mind is sort of a 3-column simplified sheet with executive summary with backup material so that you can see every word that was submitted by the community committees, but the simplified executive summary would say, this is what the board asked for, this is what the community committees recommend, these are any different leadership recommendations that the board might want to consider. If we think that the community has recommended a complete package that's no better than any other ideas we have, you won't see anything in the leadership column.
And would you have been able to associate a cost with those recommendations by that time or not?
It just depends. I would say that would be very difficult to do. I think we're going to have to find out on June 24th what the board's priorities are, because I can tell you right now, there won't be enough money to do all of them.
Right.
So we're going to have to pick and choose and prioritize, and every single time we add more of this, in our budget situation, we have to take out something else, because we are topped out. So it truly is a matter of determining our highest priorities and looking at the initiatives and the talents and the time that produce the best results.
Okay, Mr. Hollencheck?
Question. Now, based upon the June 24th meeting, the mission critical groups that came out really were just a fragment. Say, for example, in North Charleston, I think the most people ever came out was 30. You know, North Charleston population is 16,000 or more. West Ashley, I think it was about 40. Is that a true reflection of the community's input? And then after the 24th, if the community comes forth with other suggestions, would you be deemable to listen to that, or that's set in stone? And the other thing, Ms. Green stated, making some bold decisions also reflects the budget or operating expenses of those changes. Are we going to look at that first, or are we just going to move head first into trying to make changes?
So how many times the board wants to hear from various sectors of the community is up to the board. We've tried to be very transparent about the process and to make sure that everyone knows it's going on. In addition to the community committees, every month I'm out with a superintendent's coffee with the superintendent, and we're available for people to contact us and give feedback. And I know you're out as well, so you're out in the communities as well. So I think how many times the board wants to get community recommendations is up to the board. I think the only way for the staff to understand how to move forward is for the board to say, I'll just pick a number. We're not sure about these 15 things, but here are 10 we know we want to move forward with. I think you can do that on June 24th. And then on the 25th, we'll march out smartly, as Jeff Barowie would say, on putting the numbers to those things that you have approved and get those recommendations back to you as quickly as we can.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate Ms. Darby. Earlier we were talking, on the 27th of June at Royal Missionary Baptist Church, 100 stakeholders from around the county, and especially North Charleston, come together to talk about African American needs in education. So I hope you'll be able to join us then. But again, they will be from people that are not solicited, but pure people within my community that we see every day and reflect values within our area. But again, I thank you.
Coates?
So, I just want to be clear, because I kind of am thinking of the processes and some of the things that we've been talking about. This represents all of the initiatives and ideas and suggestions for the 2019-2020 school year. And I want to know that all of this, including the work in September that we did on choice schools, which was year 2 of a 3-year plan you presented, which we haven't seen the 3rd year, does that one-pager build on this, or are you saying those things we talked about with choice and magnet, or those things we talked about with school size, or these things we came to you with in February, are they kind of like not on the table anymore, or are they on the table and this gets blended into the suggestions? Because this is like 8 months of your staff's work on $40 million worth of new things for next year, and I want to make sure that that's the value of what we've done with all of this time and energy and money stays intact as you go forward into next year.
Mm-hmm. So about a year ago, you set 24 goals that the superintendent was to address, and the staff has been working on those 24 goals. Some of these 10 directives and the additional sort of recommendations that came from Clemson, the advanced ed requirements, and the shared future group are among those goals, but some are not. We can only do so much. So what I can tell you for sure is there are probably some things in that stack that are not represented in the 24 goals and that won't be represented on June 24th. We have X amount of capacity, and we'll put that capacity exactly where the board tells us to put it.
So just to be clear, these are the things that came from your staff. And so you're saying that your staff is going to have to maybe decide to drop some of these things that they've presented to the back burner?
On June 20th, so those 24 goals,
they're in here,
are the second semester update on those goals is due to you at your next meeting. And you'll get the update on those goals so you can see how they continue or morph into different versions, because we already had a goal to have a leadership pipeline. But this will be a leadership pipeline on steroids. This is a much more urgent way to address the leadership pipeline question, building back into it some of the really great approaches this district had about 15 years ago, where you took teachers out of the classroom and paid them to intern once they got their, I don't know if you were on the board then.
Doing it.
Once they had their administrative degree, they spent a year interning, paid as a teacher. And people like Terry Nichols came out of that program. So I'm not sure how many years ago that was, but you have several very strong leaders who came through that program. We let it lapse. So this gives us an opportunity to get those kinds of programs back in. I don't know the answer to your question. I can tell you that the 24 goals will be back on the table along with these mission-critical actions. And then in July, the board sets another set of goals for the superintendent's evaluation for the coming year.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions? Hearing none, I just have final comments. Dr. Postlewaite, do you want to recognize your principals that came in?
I do. If there are principals who are still here, if you would stand. I know there were some. They may have left when their students did. Thank you again for coming.
Again, let me just say thank you to Mr. Kennedy and his staff for the fine job that was done on the budget this year that have final reading and in preparation as we move forward. Thank you for the work you have done. And to you, Dr. Postlewaite, and to your staff for the directives that have been given by this board in making bold changes as we move forward in CCSD. Thank you for the work that you have done thus far. And as we move forward, as we prepared for the big day on June 24th, as we move this meter forward as far as changes coming forth, we're looking for those types of changes to happen. And of course, we have given that support by one, passing the budget, and two, giving some clear directives as to the direction we want to go and to the achievables that we want to see happen on the end. So we are going to be, when I said we, the board, in full support of this engagement and movement as we go forward to make sure that the changes do happen that needs to happen in CCSD. So thank you again to you and your staff as we move forward. Board members, please be prepared on June 10th for the board training. I think that's very important that we be in full attendance because that help prepares us for the actions moving forward as far as the board is concerned and also in engagement and in the discussion. So it starts at 9 a.m. On June 10th.
June 10th,
9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And of course, staff is welcome to be a part because if this movement is going to happen, not only does the board need to be engaged, but staff as well, and so that we all can be on the same page in this learning curve. I believe that concludes our agenda for tonight. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
So moved. Thank you so much.
They didn't have to check.